And some words for today from Psalm 25 and New Living Translation. Show me the right path, Lord. Point out the road for me to follow. Lead me by your truth and teach me, for you are the God who saves me. All day long I put my hope in you. Remember, O Lord, your compassion and unfailing love, which you have shown from long ages past. Do not remember the rebellious sins of my youth. Remember me in the light of your unfailing love, for you are merciful, O Lord. The Lord is good and does what is right. He shows the proper path to those who go astray. He leads the humble in doing right, teaching them his way. The Lord leads with unfailing love and faithfulness all who keep his covenant and obey his demands. Well, Charlotte's going to read now, and that the song cause we'll keep for the end.
The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has chosen to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim liberty to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to set free the oppressed and announce that the time has come when the Lord will save his people. The sovereign Lord has filled me with his Spirit. He has chosen me and sent me to bring good news to the poor, to heal the brokenhearted, to announce release to captives and freedom to those in prison. He has sent me to proclaim that the time has come when the Lord will save his people and defeat their enemies. He has sent me to comfort all who mourn.
Thanks very much. Did anyone spot the difference between them two Bible verses? I love that because it was basically the same thing, because the first one was Jesus quoting the second one. And it was the beginning of Jesus' public ministry. That's what he said. He picked up the scroll of Isaiah and he said, the Spirit of the Lord is on me because the Lord has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, freedom to the prisoners, and proclaim the year of the Lord's favour. And that's our warrior cry verse at Edge. That's like I've got it on my door. We've got it stuck up everywhere, that we can be reminded that that's what we've been sent to do, to proclaim, to preach the gospel, to proclaim these things. Our founding verse is also from Isaiah, taken from Isaiah 58. And I think last time I was here, I made somebody read the entire chapter of Isaiah, so you would be grateful that you didn't have to do that this morning. But just to go over, to paraphrase Isaiah 58, basically God is saying, I don't want your worship services, I don't want your festivals, I don't want your good behaviour, I want you to feed the poor, I want you to all those things, give sight to the blind, proclaim freedom, and I want your hearts, I want your whole lives, I don't want your religion, and that's what our ministry, what Edge is based on, is that we're spending our time, our resources, our effort, our money in feeding the poor. William Booth once famously said, William Booth is the founder of the Salvation Army. I'm going to try and talk slowly because I keep getting told I talk too quickly and people can't go with me, but these are all from Essex, so I feel like you're gonna get me. It's all right. Actually, it was so cool this morning singing along and hearing a room full of people singing nothing and everything. I was like, this is so much better than Derbyshire. But we read through this verse in Isaiah, and the temptation for us as humans, for all of us, myself included, is to be self-absorbed and insulated, to put me first. I want a comfortable life. I want security. I want safety for me. But what I understand when I read the Bible is that our call is to be you first. So we're outward focused, servant hearted, preferring the other and looking to God. And in my experience, and which is limited, like I've not had that much experience yet, but from what I've seen in my life and in the life of the people that we support, when we do that, it comes true. What it says, it's almost like God promised it. In Isaiah 58, it says, when you spend yourself on behalf of the poor, then your life will be blessed. And that I've seen that in my life. I've seen that in the life of the people that I journey alongside in Chesterfield, that when we can lift our eyes and serve other people, then everything else seems to come into line and work out and just feel better. And part of that, I think, is we've, as a community, or one of Carl's big visions, is we've moved from being event-based to being lifestyle-based. And by that, I mean things like our pause to pray at 11 o'clock. We began by doing prayer meetings. Like, let's do a prayer meeting once a month. That's quite a usual thing for churches and communities to do. And it's a good thing. I'm not saying it's not a good thing. We should do that. It's really important to gather together to pray. But we often found not many people could come, or if you've got kids at home, you can't always get out, if shift work, whatever's going on in life. But everybody can set an alarm on their phone or their alarm clock or whatever they've got, their cooker, whatever they've got available at home, and at 11 o'clock, and just stop for a minute and go, oh yeah, thanks God. So it's a way that we can corporately pray together because we know we're all doing it, but it's not a gathered thing. It's an ongoing lifestyle thing. And the same with worship. We do gather to worship because that's really important. I'm not saying we don't do these things. We do that. But also we live a life. Worship is a posture and a lifestyle, not just something we do on a Sunday morning when we're gathered. Actually, it's something we do on car rides, in our kitchen, or whenever we're gathered together. And it's a lifestyle rather than an event. And that really helped me get in that language of, it's not an event-based thing. Church isn't somewhere we go, it's who we are. Like, we gather together. If you come to church, you can leave church. But actually, I am the church, so I can never leave that. Does that make sense? So it's not an event-based thing. So one of the things that I've been walking through, or battling through, I should say, with the Lord at the moment, is that I'm desperate to see miracle signs and wonders. And I loved I think you prayed about signs, the gospel, the signs and wonders followed the gospel. I was like, that's brilliant. I love that. Because that's the journey that I've been on recently. Like, God, I'm desperate to see. I heard a story about somebody who was living in poverty and couldn't afford her gas bill or something. And she opened a cupboard and there was like money just sitting there. And I was like, that's like a miracle from God. I'm like, yeah, that's what I want to see. I want to see people getting healed of cancer and blind people seeing and money appearing out of nowhere. Come on, God, that'll change our community. And my understanding that was of what it means for the gospel to come, for the kingdom to come, and we have to some extent seen some of that. I've never had money just appear out of nowhere, but I've had food appear out of somebody could come and deliver it and stuff like that. We've had a guy. I'm going to tell you quite a few stories about different people this morning. There's a guy called Ian who's part of our community who's partially sighted, and he's constantly had pain for so long, and he has in the last couple of months been healed of that pain. So we have started seeing healing like that. There's a lady called Margaret who went to the doctors and had a biopsy in her bowel, and without giving too many details about it, was told there's cancer there, it's really cloudy, blah 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 blah. So she went in for an operation. It was put under general anaesthetic. The surgeon went in and said, I don't know why I'm here. There's no cancer here. And all that had happened was she'd been prayed for. So we've seen that. We've seen some miracles like that. But actually, I think they're brilliant. We celebrate them and we're really happy and excited that they've happened. But there's also been some incredible miracles and signs and wonders happen in much more subtle ways that God's just really highlighted them to me. So I want to share them with you so that you can share the joy. And one of them is relationship mending. In one of our centres, there's a young woman who has got a couple of kids and a husband, and she comes into our centre and for a coffee. She started coming in on a coffee morning, and for the baby, Little Stars, the parent and toddler group, her grandfather used to also come to the coffee morning, and they've not spoken to each other in decades. And we didn't know they were related to start with, and it was just a coincidence that they both happened to be in the same room. And once we became aware, it was a bit awkward. Something had happened in their family. and they'd not spoken. But through them both coming into the centre for coffee morning once a week on a Friday, like a couple of years down the line, they now like not only interact with each other, he goes to the kids' birthday parties. There's a family reconciliation there, and only God can do that kind of stuff. That wouldn't have happened if they hadn't both been coming in. So it's not like like the cancer's been healed, but actually that relationship's been healed in a way that wouldn't have happened if they'd not been meeting in our centres. In another one of our centres, we've got a pair of siblings who came in who, again, attend the coffee morning. And the first time that they saw each other, they were both taken into care when they were young. They've had a very traumatic life, both of them, for lots of different stuff's gone on, and very complicated relationship. And when they both saw each other for the first time in our centres, it came to blow. Like, I had to physically stand between them because I thought there was going to be a punch thrown. But more, that was about a year ago. I think the centre opened in September, so it must have been about a year ago. Now the pair of them go for coffee together. Always in a public place. They're still working on the relationship. It's not perfect, but they've had a chance to be able to talk through some of their stuff. They're at a point where they can speak to each other without having words or punches thrown at each other. And so God has healed or on his way to healing another relationship in that. One of the things that I've got a lot of stories about are people who are walking through addiction recovery. We have a guy who called Matt, who we've been praying for a long, long time. His brother is one of our staff members. He's been on a journey for a long time with various different addictions. But he started. So his brother is our handyman caretaker, and he had to paint one of our buildings, and he just said to his brother, why don't you come and help me paint this building? So instead of going to the crack den that he normally goes to, he went to one of our centres and started painting the walls, and he realised he was physically doing stuff, and over time he preferred doing that than he did going to hang out with his mates and doing. And he says to us now, or when he first was getting clean, he was just like, you guys you like me. We were like, he's never experienced that before, because the people he was hanging out with wanted to know him on the day that he got his money in, and then that was it. That if he could score for them, great, and then they'd use him, take the drugs with him, and then off he'd be out the door. But actually being cared for by people, he's now in the process of getting booked into a rehab detox facility, because he's still on a journey. But because his brother said, do you want to come and paint a building, he's now, I think, 10 months off. He's not had a Class A drug in 10 months, which is like the first time in his life he's ever not been on a Class A drug. And that's just from being around the community. And he almost doesn't want to go to detox because he wants to stay part of the Edge community. And we're like, no, it'll be really good for you. You'll love it. There's another lady who recently has started coming into one of our cafes. And she, again, is on an addiction recovery journey. And she came and helped her. She came to help run the cafe last week. She turned up early and she was like, what can I do? How can I serve? And we're seeing these people who normally would spend the whole day indoors with the curtains shut, actually coming out. And one of the reasons that this is happening is because we have a drug support worker has positioned herself in our centre. Because the first time she did that, she met someone in our centre, and he'd not eaten for weeks. He was anxious and nervous and high most of the time, so he wasn't eating very much, very skinny. And she spent an hour with him in the centre and showed him around, took him for a tour, looked around the garden. And then by the end of that time, he was like, oh, I think I could eat a potato. And we were like, that's a miracle. And it's like this guy that's not been able to eat and is anxious, and he sat in the middle of the room and ate a potato. And that we were like, that's such a win of what a difference it's made to his life. And he now is starting to come along to stuff, and we eat together quite often, and every time people will leave with a Tupperware box full of food for because you've got to eat tomorrow. And I often end up saying to him, promise me you will eat this food, not sell it or exchange it for something else. So got to be careful about what you give people. There's another guy. This will challenge you a little bit, this story. So there's a guy who comes into one of our centres who is an addict, and he's on a recovery journey, as a lot of people are. So he has met another woman who is a Christian, and he sat in front of me the other day, and he said, "You're Jesus that you always talk to me about. I think he's real. I think there's something in this. And his reasoning was because this Christian woman that he'd met went and scored. So she's an addict too. Went and scored some drugs together. They went back to his house, and she had taken a tiny little bit and then gone. And he went, everybody else would have taken more than one. Everybody else would have bled me for got as much out of me as they could. But she talked about Jesus the whole time, and she was so respectful of my stash. She didn't try and take too much of it. And I'm sitting there thinking, how do I pull my face at this point? What do I do here? But he was out of that conversation. He saw more of Jesus than he ever has through me. And I thought, wow, that put me in my place. Yeah, she wasn't using him. She just wanted to share Jesus' love with him. She's on her own journey. Yeah, absolutely. And the lady that runs the recovery program that comes into the centre that I just mentioned, she said to us on Thursday, like, can I come in more days? I've not got enough time. I've not got enough time to fit everybody in. So that's because because people are finding a community that they can belong to and not be judged for, and like, it's fine, whatever state you're in, you're welcomed. Another thing that with miracle I think that we're seeing is people finding purpose. So we've recently had a new volunteer join us, literally like only really recently, a couple of months ago. She lives in a local facility for people who have mental health challenges. So she was on restricted access, I can't remember what it's called, restricted. She only was allowed out for a restricted amount of time. So she was only allowed like 3 hours out of the facility, and she chose to spend that by coming to volunteer in our cafe. And she loves chatting to people. So she sits at a table and she just chats to the people that come in. She's terrified of the kitchen, of serving, of carrying a cup of tea or making something, but she's brilliant at just sitting and chatting to people, making people feel welcome. Since she's been coming, it's only been a couple of months she's been coming along, but she's found she sends me emails and she's like, what does your God say about mental health? Does your God think that I've got a demon? Like she's got all these massive questions, but she's just been given indefinite release. I don't know what the right term is, but she's now not restricted to 3 hours. She can stay out for as long as she wants. And it was like, our centre was the first place she came to say, like, this is what's happened. Like, I've been moved up so that I've got more freedom. I can do more stuff. And she's meeting people where they're at and on this journey with God. There's another lady who became a Christian maybe a year or so ago, gave her life to Jesus. She's on a journey with it, and she attends quite a like an Anglican church, a local Anglican church once a fortnight, and she loves the formality of the liturgy. She really likes that. But she's got such a heart to gather people, and we tried to formalise it a little bit for her and make it into like an official role that she was doing, and it just didn't work, and it was a bit of it imploded a little bit. But she's now started, she just gathers people naturally. So like the lady that I just told you about who was living in a care facility, this other lady goes and picks her up and takes her for coffee, and nobody's asked her to do that. She just naturally does it. She's just gathered people in. Now you see this. When I've tried to formalise what that looks like, it didn't work. But when she's just naturally done her thing, she's now got. There's a couple of women that she's just come alongside and brought out of their shell, and they're all volunteering in the cafe, and they're all volunteering to, well, how else can we help you? What else can we do to serve? And you're like, but we're supposed to be serving you. You're the broken ones, but actually they're not. We're all broken, and it's not an us versus them. Actually, it's we're all in this together, and we've all got something to give. We've all got something to share with each other. We have a guy on our staff team called Lee, who he's actually just joined our leadership team, and his background is he was an alcoholic for decades, and he's been clean now probably, I don't know how many years, 7 or 8, something like that. And he's got a horrific story of abuse and Satanism, and he's come out of a really dark place. And he came into our centre. He was living in one of these, earlier on I talked about the houses, the halfway house type places. He was living in one of them. He's our kind of inspiration, actually, for wanting to find places. So he was living in this halfway house place called the Lighthouse. And somebody mentioned to him, have you been down to the Edge? So he popped down one Thursday for lunch, and he's literally never left. And he's the centre manager. He's joined the leadership team. He's just a real man of peace. But he came in and he's quite rough looking. He's got skinhead. He's got a satanic tattoo on his arm. He doesn't look. He can look a bit imposing. And he sat there thinking, "Oh, no one's going to speak to me." And he said everybody spoke to him. He was like, "I just felt so welcomed." And now he does that to other people. Where he's moved out of the house. He's got his own flat. He's got autonomy to come and go when he wants to. He's got no one looking over his shoulder. He's able to do that. Not everybody can. Some people need a bit more support than what he's got. But just seeing him thrive and flourish, and for the first time in years, his daughter was able to come and stay with him, because she wasn't allowed to do that and she lives in Norwich and we're in Chesterfield. So he was able to spend a whole week with his kid, like showing her what we do and she's not a believer, so she was like, it was all brand new to her, like, what is this Jesus stuff that's brainwashed my dad. And then by the end of the week she was like, actually, like, maybe there's something in this. So this journey that people are going on. Another guy, actually really similar story, called Mark, he's a handyman, the one who is his brother, who we're looking to get into detox soon. He has got a past in drugs and crime and stuff, and half my staff we've all got a story. We've all been through something that's broken us, that's got us to the point where we've needed Jesus. So it's helps to be able to understand sometimes, and not everybody. Some people. Anyway, Mark has come out of addiction himself and dealing, and he is now in uni studying theology and absolutely loving it. He's so unlikely for like, if you looked at who he was a few years ago, that he's now, and he can't help but talk about Jesus all the time. No matter where you are, it just bubbles out of him. He'll be at the tip, like, sharing the gospel. And you're like, why did it take you 3 hours to do that tip run? And he's like, oh yeah, I bumped into someone, like, prayed for this person, I've shared the gospel. But he has found a purpose, and he's found bringing his brother along has given him, like, he's seen that now, the freedom that his brother's found. And he's like, who else can we do that for? And he's found his purpose in doing the buildings. And then one final story to share, which there's a lady who's part of our community pantry team. We inherited a food bank and then turned it into a community pantry. But part of what we inherited was a team of volunteers, and some of them have stayed, some of them have gone. There's one volunteer in particular who she came in and she said she was having trouble with her dog. Her dog had tried to attack her son, and so somebody's taken the dog away, one of our community, to look after it. So it's like it's not been hurt in any way, but he's now training the dog. So she came in and she told us this story about the dog, and she said that her son had started seeing things in the house. There were ghosts and spirits, and she was like, I don't know what to do. And so I was like, well, I can come around and pray and, like, sprinkle some oil or something. And she wasn't quite up for that. She wasn't ready for that. Then we started to talk about what her house looked like, and she had black walls and she had skulls everywhere, and she loves all that kind of gothic stuff. And I just, like, we gently suggested to her, like, maybe it's that. Maybe you need to invite Jesus into that space. And she wouldn't say she's a believer. She's not got a faith, but she has repainted her walls white. She has got rid of all her skulls, and she's started getting some nice knick-knacky bits to go in. And the weird spirit stuff has stopped. And she's still not, like, prayed a prayer of repentance, or what we might think of as a traditional I've become a Christian moment. But she stands in her house and she declares the power of Jesus, and it's changed her life. And it all started when the food bank moved into our building, is when all the spiritual stuff started. So she's like, I can see, she just needs that last little push over the line, or whatever that means. But it's I tell you all those stories because a lot of them don't look like traditional Christians. They don't look like traditional success stories, because people are still doing drugs. People are still not professing Jesus as their Lord. People are still walking a messy line with each other. But it's absolutely challenged me as a as a Christian? What does that look like? And how much do I think I'm going in as the saviour? Because they don't need me; they need Jesus. and it's so easy for us to go in and think that we know better, or that we're teaching people and being taught ourselves all the time that there is no arrival. Like, we think, I just need to get this, or I just need this new job, I just need this new relationship, I just need this new house, or whatever your thing is, and then I've arrived. But the truth is, we never arrive, and I'm no more arrived than any of you. Like, there's nothing special about me. I've just said yes when God said, go here. So I think we want to think, what is our calling? And we want to have a like, where are we as a church? Where are we headed? Or me as a person, where am I headed? And I think the answer can be so simple, that it's that one next step to be obedient to God, and that promise in Isaiah 58 that I talked about at the beginning. That when he says, I don't want your good behaviour, your festivals, your worship songs, I don't even want your sacrifices. I want you to share your food with the hungry. I want you to welcome the stranger. I want you to give a dwelling to the lonely. I want you to welcome them into family. When you spend yourself on behalf of those who don't have, then the Son of Righteousness will rise with healing in his wings. Then your prayers will be answered. Then you'll find that healing that you've been searching for when you're serving others. And it's so powerful, that moving from an event-based faith to a lifestyle of faith, and seeing Jesus in those, like let's celebrate those little wins, those little joy. Like, you probably have got stories that you could tell me of when God's moved, or when things have happened and you've shared with people. That's what I've got to say. I'm not very good at ending talks. I'm just like, I'm just going to ramble if I keep talking. I don't know.
Thank you. And when I, lots there.